Have you ever watched your whole life collapse over a single dinner? I did. I was about to receive my first Michelin star, the crowning achievement of my career. The restaurant was packed, the critics were impressed, and my wife looked stunning in her black dress. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. I should have known better. In the kitchen, when something looks too good to be true, it usually is. By midnight, I would discover that success has a bitter taste, betrayal comes with a hefty side of karma, and revenge is a dish best served. Well, you'll see how I served it. This isn't just another cheating story. This is about how I turned the worst night of my life into the best decision I ever made. It's funny how life can change in an instant. One moment you're on top of the world, and the next, everything crumbles like a poorly made souffle. I'm Ryan, and this is the story of how my perfect life fell apart during what should have been the crowning achievement of my career. Maybe if I'd spent less time perfecting my demi-glace and more time noticing the warning signs, things would have turned out differently. They say success comes at a price, and believe me, I paid dearly for mine. For 15 years, I poured my heart and soul into becoming one of San Francisco's most respected chefs. From 12-hour shifts as a line cook to learning under Michelin-starred masters in France, every burn scar and sleepless night was a step toward my dream. The smell of butter and herbs, the sizzle of a perfectly seared scallop, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables. These weren't just sounds and smells. They were the soundtrack of my life. My restaurant, Maison, wasn't just another fancy eatery in San Francisco's crowded culinary scene. We opened 3 years ago in a historic building near the Ferry Building, and through sheer determination and countless 18-hour days, we'd become the hottest reservation in town. Food critics called my cuisine revolutionary and soul-stirring. Regular customers became friends, and friends became family. My team was hand-picked and fiercely loyal. We'd been through fire together, literally and metaphorically. Olivia, my wife of 8 years, always said I had a gift. We met when she was doing a food photography spread for her magazine. She walked into my previous restaurant's kitchen, camera in hand, designer heels clicking on the tile floor, and I knew she was something special. You don't just cook food, Ryan, she'd tell me. You create experiences, and she was right. Every dish that left my kitchen told a story. Every plate was a canvas. She understood the demands of my profession, the late nights, the perfectionism. At least I thought she did. Looking back, there were signs. The way she started working late more often, how she'd get these mysterious calls during dinner service. But I was too focused on my own world, my own ambitions. The irony? I could spot a pinch of missing salt in a complex sauce, but I couldn't see what was happening right in front of me. That night, everything seemed perfect. The Michelin inspector was coming, and this was our shot at culinary immortality. I'd spent months perfecting the tasting menu, each dish a carefully choreographed dance of flavors. The dining room was buzzing with energy, the soft glow of custom lighting, making everyone look like they were in a movie. The fog rolled in from the bay, creating the perfect San Francisco ambience outside our windows. My team was operating like a well-oiled machine. Jake, my sous chef, was expediting with military precision. Sarah, our pastry chef, had outdone herself with a chocolate dessert that looked like a work of modern art. Even the new guy, Tommy, was nailing every plate. Olivia arrived early, turning heads in her black Valentino dress. She worked the room like the media professional she was, chatting with regulars, making everyone feel special. When she caught my eye through the kitchen pass, she raised her champagne glass and winked. God, she was good at playing her part. Little did I know, this would be the last supper of my marriage. As I plated another perfect dish of my signature honey lavender duck, I had no idea that my world was about to implode. They say every great chef has a signature dish. Mine was about to become a recipe for disaster. You know that feeling in your gut when something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Like when a sauce is missing something, but you can't identify which spice. That's how I felt that night as I watched Olivia work the dining room. The Michelin inspector was sitting at table 7. Not that we were supposed to know who they were, but in this business, word travels fast. I was in my zone, calling orders, perfecting plates, conducting my kitchen orchestra like a well-oiled machine. 2 duck, 1 halibut, fire table 9. The rhythm of the kitchen was my happy place, but something kept pulling my attention to the dining room. That's when Marco, one of my line cooks, nudged me. "Yo, chef, your wife's getting pretty chummy with that suit at the bar." I glanced up from the plate I was garnishing. Sure enough, there was Olivia, perched at the bar like she owned the place, laughing a bit too hard at whatever Mr. Designer's suit was saying. The guy looked familiar, James or Jason or whatever his name was, some hotshot restaurant investor who'd been sniffing around lately, talking about expansion opportunities. "Keep your eyes on the risotto, Marco," I said, trying to sound casual. But something about the way Olivia touched the guy's arm made my stomach twist. She'd been doing that a lot lately, getting cozy with potential investors, saying it was just business. Talk about having too many cooks in the kitchen. The night was going smoothly otherwise. The inspector had just finished their main course, my signature duck with honey lavender glaze, and the feedback was stellar. Sarah's dessert was up next, a chocolate masterpiece that looked like modern art on a plate. That's when I noticed Olivia checking her phone for the 100th time, her face lit up by the screen's glow. "Hey, babe." She caught me during a rare, quiet moment, poking her head through the pass. Something came up at the magazine. Emergency editorial meeting about tomorrow's deadline. You know how it goes. She gave me that smile, the one that usually melted my heart. "Don't wait up, okay?" Now, I've been in the restaurant business long enough to know that BS when I smell it. Last-minute editorial meetings at 9 p.m.? That's about as real as instant risotto. But there I was up to my elbows in the biggest night of my career, and I just nodded like an idiot. "Yeah, sure. Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level while plating a perfectly seared scallop. "Of course. Just the usual drama. You're killing it tonight, by the way." That inspector didn't know what hit them. She blew me a kiss and was gone before I could say another word, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors like a countdown to disaster. Jake, my sous chef and right-hand man for the past 5 years, caught my eye. "Something smells fishy, chef, and it ain't the halibut." He'd known Olivia as long as I had, seen our relationship grow alongside the restaurant. "Not now, Jake," I muttered, but deep down, I knew he was right. It was like watching a souffle starting to collapse. You can see it happening, but there's nothing you can do to stop it. The rest of the service was a blur of perfect plates and high praise. The inspector left looking impressed, and the dining room was buzzing with happy customers. But my mind kept drifting to Olivia and that emergency meeting. Call it chef's intuition, but something wasn't adding up, and for once, I wasn't sure I wanted to know the recipe for this disaster. Let me tell you something about working in a professional kitchen. Nothing stays secret for long. It's like a pressure cooker of gossip, and eventually, everything boils over. I just never thought I'd be the main course of the day's drama. The morning after the Michelin inspector's visit started normally enough. I was going through invoices in my office when Jake knocked on the door. "Got a minute, chef?" He had that look on his face, the one that says the stock's about to spoil. "What's up?" I asked, not looking up from the papers. The breakfast crew was handling service, and I had a mountain of prep work waiting for the dinner rush. "It's about Olivia." That got my attention. Jake's been my right hand for 5 years. He wouldn't bring up my wife without good reason. Marco saw her last night at Noir Lounge with that investor guy, Jason. Way after that supposed emergency meeting, I put down my pen. "What time?" "Around midnight. They were—" He paused, choosing his words carefully, pretty cozy in a back booth. "Look, chef, I wouldn't say anything, but this isn't the first time." Before I could respond, Sarah, my pastry chef, appeared in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to hear this." She stepped in, closing the door behind her. "My roommate works at Cafe Luna. Says Olivia's been meeting Jason. They're almost every morning this week. Long breakfasts in quiet corners." The hits kept coming. Throughout the morning, it seemed like every member of my staff had a piece of the puzzle I'd been too blind to see. Tommy, our new server, mentioned seeing them at a wine bar last week. One of the line cooks swore he saw them sharing an Uber. I tried to focus on prep work, but my mind kept wandering. All those late-night editorial meetings, the sudden increase in business dinners, the mysterious texts during service. My knife moved on autopilot, dicing herbs while I connected dots I'd been ignoring for months. Maria, our hostess, dropped the final bomb during lunch service. "Chef, I wasn't going to say anything, but..." She glanced around, making sure no one else could hear. Last month, when Olivia said she was at that food photography workshop in Napa, my sister saw her at the French Laundry. She was having dinner with Jason. There was definitely no workshop. I set down my knife, the metal clanking against the cutting board harder than necessary. The whole kitchen went quiet. In a professional kitchen, that kind of silence is deafening. My phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. Working late tonight. Big deadline for the magazine. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at the screen until it went dark. In the kitchen, we have a saying, if it looks wrong, smells wrong, and tastes wrong, it's wrong. No amount of seasoning can fix a spoiled dish. Jake caught my eye across the line. What are you going to do, chef? I picked up my knife again, resuming my prep work with mechanical precision. Right now, I'm going to make sure lunch service is perfect. I paused, the weight of the situation settling like a heavy cast iron pan. Then I'm going to find out exactly what kind of business meetings my wife's been having. The thing about being a chef, we're used to working under pressure. We thrive in the heat. But this was a different kind of heat altogether, and something was about to boil over. Sometimes you need to let a pot boil over to see what's really cooking underneath. You know what's worse than suspecting something's wrong? Having to prove it. After the lunch service, I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. I needed solid evidence, and I needed it fast. I called Steve, a tech-savvy regular at the restaurant. Within an hour, I had a small tracking device and instructions on how to use it. Not my proudest moment, but desperate times call for desperate measures. That evening, I handed the kitchen over to Jake. You're in charge, I said, hanging up my chef's coat. The look he gave me said he knew exactly what I was about to do. I parked my car near the magazine office, feeling like an idiot playing detective. Through the windows, I could see most of the offices were dark. So much for that emergency meeting. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Meeting running late. Lots of changes for the feature spread. Won't be home until after midnight. I checked the tracking app. The signal was moving downtown, toward the hotel district. I followed at a safe distance, watching the dot stop at the Grand Plaza Hotel. 20 minutes later, Jason, the investor, walked in looking too polished for this time of night. 5 minutes after that, Olivia arrived wearing the black dress I'd given her for our anniversary. You'd think this would be the moment I'd storm in there, guns blazing. But something in me just went cold. I waited another 10 minutes, then walked into the hotel lobby. The receptionist was young, probably new. Perfect. Good evening, I said, flashing my best chef smile. I'm meeting some colleagues for a late business dinner. Jason Thompson's party. She checked her computer. Mr. Thompson is in our executive suite, room 1542. Would you like me to call up? No need, I said, already heading for the elevators. They're expecting me. The ride-up felt like forever. Each floor number was a countdown to something I couldn't stop. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed, all the lies I believed. The late meetings, the business dinners, the networking events. Standing outside room 1542, I could hear muffled laughter through the door. Her laughter. The sound that used to make my day now made me sick. My phone buzzed one last time. Olivia, making good progress here at the office. Don't worry about dinner. Grab something with the team. That was it. The final lie. The last straw. In the kitchen, there's a point when a dish is so ruined there's no saving it. You have to start over completely. I was standing at that point now. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. There's a moment in every chef's life when time seems to stop. Usually, it's when a dish goes terribly wrong during service. But this was different. The door opened slowly, and there they were. Olivia froze mid-laugh, champagne glass still raised. Jason sat on the suite's couch, his jacket thrown carelessly over a chair. The room smelled of expensive perfume and betrayal. Ryan, Olivia's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I stayed in the doorway, my hand steady, years of knife work paying off in an unexpected way. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing, especially since you're supposed to be at the office. Jason stood up, straightening his tie. Look, man, this isn't what it looks like. Really? I pulled out my phone, started recording. Because it looks like my wife is having drinks with an investor in a hotel room at midnight, while telling me she's at work. Olivia set down her glass. Ryan, please, let me explain, Dash. Explain what? How you been lying to me? How long has this been going on? My voice remained calm, eerily so. Was it before or after you started discussing expansion opportunities for the restaurant? Jason tried to step forward. We should all calm down and dash. Don't. One word, but it carried the weight of every kitchen command I'd ever given. He stopped mid-step. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to see exactly what I suspected was true. Olivia started crying, her mascara running. It's not. We weren't. She couldn't even finish her lies. I looked around the room. Champagne bucket, scattered paperwork, probably a weak attempt at making it look like a business meeting, and her overnight bag tucked poorly behind the couch. Classic signs of a rushed cover-up, like trying to hide burned food under sauce. Well, I said, still recording, I think I have everything I need. By the way, Olivia, the Michelin inspector loved our food tonight. Shame you missed it for this. As I turned to leave, Olivia grabbed my arm. Ryan, wait. We can fix this. I gently removed her hand. Some things can't be fixed like a souffle that's already fallen. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. Walking back to my car, I sent the video to my email, then called Jake. Hey, need a favor. Can you handle breakfast service tomorrow? I've got some paperwork to take care of. The drive home was quiet. No music, no calls, just the sound of my world shifting on its axis. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I knew exactly what needed to happen next. Time to clean house. They say the breakfast shift is the hardest in any restaurant. Early start, demanding customers, and the whole day still ahead of you. But this morning, this was a different kind of hard. I didn't sleep. Instead, I spent the night changing locks, packing Olivia's things, and sending emails. By sunrise, I contacted a divorce lawyer and forwarded that hotel video to my personal email about 20 times. No way I was losing that evidence. My phone had been blowing up all night. Missed calls, texts, voicemails, all from Olivia and Jason. I ignored them all. In the kitchen, when something's burnt, you don't keep tasting it to make sure. Jake met me at the restaurant early. Chef, you look like hell. He paused. Want me to tell the staff you're not coming in today? No, I said, tying my apron. The kitchen is the only thing that makes sense right now. We worked in silence for a while, prep lists keeping us busy. Then Sarah arrived, took one look at me, and knew. Word spreads fast in a kitchen. By the time the morning crew arrived, everyone knew something was up. That's when Olivia walked in through the back door, still wearing last night's dress. Ryan, please, we need to talk. Her mascara was smeared, hair a mess. Not exactly the polished image she usually maintained. I kept chopping vegetables. Nothing to talk about. Your things are packed. They'll be at your sister's by noon. You can't just throw away 8 years of marriage. The knife hit the cutting board harder than necessary. Funny, that's exactly what you did in room 1542. She tried a different angle. What about the restaurant? The expansion plans? We were going to build something amazing. No, I corrected her. You and Jason were planning something. I was just the chef you were using to get there. The kitchen had gone quiet. Everyone was pretending to work while watching our drama unfold. In any other situation, I'd send them all on break. But right now, I needed witnesses. It wasn't like that. She was crying again. Jason it just happened. Things don't just happen in my kitchen, and they don't just happen in my marriage. I finally looked at her. You made choices. Multiple choices, over multiple months. Now you get to live with them. One of my line cooks dropped a pan. The clang echoed through the silence. What am I supposed to do now? She asked, voice small. That's not my problem anymore. But you need to leave. We're about to open for breakfast. She stood there, mascara running, looking lost in the kitchen she'd once posed in for magazine photos. Finally, Jake stepped forward. I'll walk you out, Mrs. D. After she left, the kitchen stayed quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then Marco called out, order in, and just like that, we were back in service mode. Because that's what kitchens do. We keep moving, keep cooking, keep serving. Sometimes the best revenge is just doing your job perfectly. News travels fast in the restaurant industry. By lunchtime, every chef in San Francisco knew about Jason's failed investment strategy. Turned out I wasn't the only restaurant he'd tried to muscle in on through similar methods. Just the first one to catch him in the act. The lunch rush was just ending when my phone rang. It was Jean-Paul, my old mentor from France. Ryan, mon ami, I heard what happened. These investors, they're like rats in the kitchen, always trying to steal what isn't theirs. Pierre at Le Petit told me this same man tried with his wife last year. Disgraceful. I was checking inventory when Steve, my tech-savvy regular, walked in. He'd brought his entire office for lunch. "Hey, chef. Heard about what went down? Don't worry about that expansion plan nonsense. My firm's been looking to invest in a solid restaurant. Real investment, no strings attached." Word reached the food critics too. The same ones who'd been at the Michelin dinner. Instead of hurting the restaurant, the scandal seemed to be helping. Every table was booked solid for the next 3 months. The waiting list kept growing. Sarah caught me between services. "Chef, you need to see this." She handed me her phone. A local food blog had posted the story. "Rising star chef catches wife and predatory investor. Saves restaurant." Below were comments from other restaurant owners. Seems Jason had quite a history. 3 in the Bay Area alone, 2 in Los Angeles, even 1 in Portland. That's when my lawyer called. "Ryan, we need to talk about Jason's official investment offer. Given the circumstances, we have grounds to void any preliminary agreements. Also, 3 other restaurants have reached out. Seems he tried the same play with them. They're willing to testify if needed. And there's more. His investment firm is launching an internal investigation." I was in the walk-in, organizing supplies, when Jake found me. "Got a call from Food and Wine. They want to do a feature on the restaurant. Something about integrity in the industry or whatever." "Oh, and that seafood supplier Jason tried to force on us? Turns out they're under investigation for some shady practices." The dinner service that night was packed. Every table full, kitchen running smooth as butter. Even had to turn people away at the door. Funny how things work out. The night I thought would destroy my restaurant ended up saving it. We even had to add extra staff just to handle the reservations. Then Olivia's magazine called. They wanted to discuss the future of our advertising partnership. I let Jake handle that one. He took great pleasure in telling them we'd be taking our business elsewhere. Turns out their advertising director had some questions about Olivia's expense accounts too. By closing time, my phone had more messages from potential investors than it did from Olivia. Legitimate ones this time, with proper credentials and references. No hotel meetings required. 3 different restaurant groups wanted to talk about real expansion opportunities. My staff stuck around after cleanup. Even the dish crew stayed. Marco raised his glass. "To chef, for showing us how to handle rats in the kitchen." Everyone joined in, even the new guy who'd started that morning. Tommy spoke up next. "Chef, that food critic from the Chronicle called again. They're bumping your review to the front page. Said something about a chef with principles is rare these days." Jake put his hand on my shoulder. "You know what they say in the kitchen? Heat either makes you melt or makes you stronger." They didn't mean the cooking kind of heat. The divorce papers landed on my desk exactly 1 week after the hotel incident. My lawyer made sure everything was clean and simple. No room for negotiations or delays. Olivia tried calling again, but I let it go to voicemail. Some dishes you just can't salvage. The restaurant was busier than ever. That video of Jason in the hotel room had spread through the industry like wildfire. 3 other restaurant owners came forward with similar stories. Turned out he had a whole playbook. Find successful restaurants, seduce the chef's wife or husband, then use that leverage for cheap buyouts. Jake found me in my office, reviewing applications for a new sous chef position. "Chef, you might want to see this." He handed me his phone. It was an email from Jason's investment firm. They were cutting all ties with him, effective immediately. His predatory tactics had finally caught up with him. "Good," I said, turning back to my work. But Jake wasn't done. "There's more. Remember that Michelin dinner?" He grinned. "Just got the official word. We got the star." I sat back in my chair, letting that sink in. All those years of work, all those long nights and burnt fingers, finally paid off. The irony wasn't lost on me. The night I lost my wife, I gained my first Michelin star. Sarah knocked on the door next. "Chef, that food critic from the Chronicle is here again. And your lawyer's online too. Something about Olivia trying to claim partial ownership of the restaurant." I picked up the phone. My lawyer was ahead of the game. "Don't worry," he said. "I've got signed statements from your investors confirming she had no role in the business operations. Plus, that video of her plotting with Jason pretty much kills any claim she might make." The staff gathered for pre-service meeting. Looking around at their faces, I realized something. This wasn't just my restaurant anymore. It was our restaurant. They'd stood by me, kept the kitchen running when I was dealing with lawyers, and never once let the drama affect service. Marco spoke up first. "Hey, chef, about that expansion plan, the crew's been talking. We want to be part of it. Like, actually part of it. We've all got some savings." I held up my hand. "Let me stop you right there." I pulled out a stack of papers from my desk. "Already ahead of you. Employee profit-sharing plan. Been working on it all week." The look on their faces. That's why I became a chef. Not for the awards or reviews, but for moments like this. Later that night, after service, I found a letter in my office. It was from Jean-Paul, my old mentor. Inside was his secret recipe for coco vin, the one he'd refused to share for 20 years. The note read, "For a chef who remembers what really matters in a kitchen, loyalty." Tommy stuck his head in. "Chef, Table 7 wants to thank you personally. It's a group of restaurant owners. They're talking about forming some kind of association, protecting against predatory investors." I looked at the recipe in my hands, then at the Michelin star announcement on my desk. Sometimes the best meals come from the ingredients you never expected to use. Just ask Jason. He'd ordered champagne that night at the hotel, but ended up eating crow instead. They say time heals all wounds. In the kitchen, we know better proper technique heals wounds. Time just helps you perfect the technique. 3 months after the hotel incident, I was plating a new dessert when Jake brought in the mail. "Final divorce papers arrived, chef." He set them on my desk like they might explode. "Wanting to handle service tonight?" "Nah," I said, adding a final garnish to the plate. "Best way to deal with this is to keep cooking." The restaurant had transformed. That Michelin star brought in a whole new crowd, but our regulars still got priority booking. The employee profit-sharing plan meant everyone worked harder, cared more. We weren't just a restaurant anymore. We were a family. I heard Olivia had taken a job at a smaller magazine in Los Angeles. Jason's investment firm blacklisted him after 3 more restaurants came forward. Last I heard, he was trying to open a food truck. Karma's got a way of serving the perfect dish. Sarah caught me during prep. "Remember that cooking class program you wanted to start? The one Olivia said would dilute the brand?" She grinned. "Just got approved by the city. We start next month, teaching kids from low-income neighborhoods." The kitchen had a different energy now. No more walking on eggshells. No more whispered conversations. Marco was developing new specials. Tommy had grown into a solid server. And Jake was practically running the place when I was working on the expansion. "Chef." Tommy appeared, looking nervous. "There's someone here to see you. Says she's from the James Beard Foundation." I wiped my hands and headed out. A woman in a sharp suit stood in the dining room. "Mr. Davidson? We'd like to discuss nominating you for Rising Star Chef of the Year. Your story, it's inspired a lot of people in the industry." Later that night, after service, I sat in my office looking at those divorce papers. 3 months ago, they would have felt like failure. Now they felt like graduation papers, proof that I'd learned something valuable. Jake knocked. "Hey, got a minute? Remember that idea about the second location? Found a perfect spot. Previous owner's selling because his investment deal fell through." He smirked. Apparently his broker was Jason. I had a laugh. Life's got a twisted sense of humor sometimes. The next morning, I signed those divorce papers and handed them to my lawyer. Then I went back to the kitchen and created a new dish, something bold and unexpected. Called it Fresh Start. It made it onto the menu that night. Sold out in 2 hours. 1 year later, I was finalizing the menu for our second location's opening night when my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "I miss you. Can we talk?" Funny how a year changes things. I read the message, then went back to adjusting the garnish on a new dish. A year ago, that text would have knocked me sideways. Now it was just another notification to swipe away. The new restaurant was everything we'd dreamed of, and more importantly, we'd done it our way. The employee profit-sharing plan meant everyone had skin in the game. Jake was running the original location like he was born for it, while I focused on getting the new place ready. "Chef." Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Food and Wine is here for the photo shoot. And that investor group wants to meet next week about expanding to Chicago." I smiled, remembering how Olivia and Jason had pushed for rapid expansion. Their way would have destroyed everything we'd built. Sometimes the best meals take the longest to prepare. The kitchen was alive with energy. New staff training alongside veterans. Everyone moving with purpose. Marco was teaching his son knife skills. The kid was starting as a dishwasher next week. Tommy had made head server and was training new staff on our service standards. My lawyer called with an update. Jason's firm just settled with the last restaurant he tried to take over. He's officially done in the industry. Also, Olivia's magazine just went under. Seems their advertisers had concerns about editorial integrity. I hung up and walked through my kitchen, both kitchens now connected by video link. 2 crews working as one, dishes flowing out like a synchronized dance. This was what success really looked like. Not fancy investors or magazine spreads, but people working together, creating something special. The James Beard Award sat on my office shelf, next to the Michelin star plaque. Nice to have, but not why we did this. The real reward was in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the faces of satisfied customers and proud staff. Later that night, after both restaurants had closed, the crews gathered for family meal. It's a kitchen tradition. Everyone eats together after service. Jake raised his glass. To Chef, who taught us that the best revenge is cooking well. I looked around at these faces, my real family. Some had been with me through the worst night of my life. Others had joined along the way. All of them had helped build something special from the ashes of betrayal. I deleted Olivia's message without responding. Some recipes are better left in the past. All right, I said, standing up. Tomorrow we open a new place. Let's show them how real restaurants are run. Because sometimes the best dish you can serve is success.